99.1, The Sports Animal. I'm Vince Ferrara, bringing you a Zoom video feature where we're going to talk to special guests and bring you that audio as well. And we're going to get things started with a terrific guy, an excellent quarterback coach for college, high school, and NFL quarterbacks. Plus, he's a part of Test Academy up in New York, New Jersey. That is Tony Racioppi, who's also QB coach of quarterback of the Tennessee Volunteers, Jarrett Guarantano. Tony, how you doing?
Good, Vince. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Great to have you on. And I know you're up in New Jersey, and that area has been hit harder than anywhere in the U.S. Tell us what that has been like for you and how you're taking precaution up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough up here, obviously, for the last, whatever it's been, 3 weeks to a month. I mean, it's almost, you feel like Groundhog Day right now. So,
yeah.
You don't really know what day of the week it is, or, you're just trying to do the right thing. And, thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that's lost people already. I lost a good friend, obviously, yesterday. He was a high school coach and teacher in our area. So,
wow.
It's just, it's tough. It's, you see people shutting down businesses and losing things, and but doing the right thing. My wife's home obviously with me, and then we have a almost 1 month old or 1 year old daughter. So just again, trying to stay healthy and do the right thing, and just stay inside.
Excellent. All right, well, hang in there with you and the family. So during this period of time, a lot of what we're hearing about college, NFL, they're going to the virtual coaching. How much of that are you doing right now with any of your clients?
Doing it, but I wouldn't really call it virtual. It's something that I've always done with guys, even at school, like as far as, having guys do the drills that we normally do, just have somebody stand behind you and kind of video it. And at the end of a session, kind of send me those drills that we do. And obviously there's, within each drill, you're focusing on certain details. So just, kind of going through things, making sure that they're doing the right things fundamentally. And through those drills, whether it's a front shoulder thing or a hip thing or a bounce thing or an elbow thing or a follow through, kind of just going through those drills, just really on a cell phone. I mean, it's not the same as being there, obviously, but it's the best we can do right now. So
how much of a challenge do you think this is for college quarterbacks and college coaches in dealing with that and coaching during this period?
It's as tough as possible. Usually you're going through spring practice right now, and either you're trying to win a job or you're trying to hold on to a job, as a quarterback. So it's frustrating because obviously you come off the season, right? You do all the winter conditioning, you lift, you're running, you're meeting with guys, either in the morning or at night, throwing, getting guys together, and working on timing for spring, and obviously not being able to do that. I think they're frustrated, but they get, what's going on right now. I think it's kind of trickled from not being able to practice to, guys to come to guys like me, right? And because they can't practice there, they come to guys like me to work on their stuff because they can't do it there. And then all of a sudden, things got shut down here or wherever they're living. So now it's the point where it's, what are you doing now to even work on or maintain what you got, So that's kind of the battle I think you're going to see.
We're visiting with Tony Racioppi, who's the quarterback coach of Jarrett Guarantano and works for Test Academy up in New Jersey, works with high school, college, and NFL quarterbacks. Awesome insight here on 99.1 The Sports Animals. So, Tony, you got a chance to work with Jarrett Guarantano before all this hit, right? What was that like this time?
Great as usual. I mean, he's a hard worker. He's a kid that I've known for a long time. So, the nice thing about, now is you have so much experience with each other is, when he comes, it's, you're focusing on maybe one or two things or maybe something that, last season he felt like he didn't do well enough from a fundamental standpoint. And, you kind of hone in, obviously you do everything just to stay sharp fundamentally. But, when you have a history with a guy, usually you kind of know him really well. So it was good. Obviously it got cut short because of what happened up here. I mean, he planned on staying for a little while longer, but we trained for about a week, and then he went back down to his parents down in I believe they live in Georgia. So he was staying up here with friends, and his girlfriend lives up here. So we did as much as we could. Obviously, when the thing was we're okay, and obviously we had to shut the whole thing down because of what's going on. So
wow, interesting. So what was that like to see him go through the kind of season that he did
sure.
as much of a roller coaster as it was and the way it closed out? Kind of take us through what you're thinking during all that.
Yeah, it was tough. I think that, I think the way I work is as loyal as they are, and I'm there for all those guys, whether they threw for 5 touchdowns or they, threw 2 picks and got benched. So a lot of times I talk to those guys more than I talk to the guys who threw the 5 touchdowns. So we talked a bunch. I would say we talked 2 or 3 times a week. Whether it's through text messaging or a phone call on a late Wednesday night, or kind of just talking them through the process. And he's a mentally tough kid. He's a tough kid. He's always been a tough kid, mentally and physically. And it didn't turn out the way he wanted, but he hung in there, and he played his best football at the end of the year. And he easily could have just kind of shut it down and made excuses and blamed other people, or kind of sat on the bench and let those other guys kind of come in there and start and not help him. But if you watch those games, someone else threw a touchdown or made a big play, he was the first guy to go congratulate him. So you could tell that it was pretty neat to watch. I feel like the Tennessee quarterback room in general, just the way they acted with each other. Well, not just Jarrett, but the other 2 guys. They had each other's backs, which was pretty neat to see. I know he's a big fan of Jim Chaney. He's a huge fan of Chris Winkie, his quarterback coach there. So, he battled through it. It wasn't the way we thought it was going to be, and not the way, the hard thing for a guy like me is I see them in a fundamental world, and a kind of a perfect world, because that's the way quarterback drills are, right? So,
Right.
It's not realistic for the most part, as much as you want to make it. You don't know what's going to happen when you throw defense out there, and it's 11 on 11, under the lights. So, I think that he finished strong. He had a pretty good year. If you look on paper, it's not, again, we were expecting a SEC player of the year kind of thing. And again, I'll jump on any table and tell anybody that he's one of the top players in America, and one of the most talented kids in America. And I've seen almost every one of them throw live at some point, whether it's been camps or whatever. He can do it. So I'm excited for him to come back this year and go win the job and have a great year.
When we talked to him before the season, he was so excited about this offense with Jim Chaney and Chris Winkie. Did you kind of come out of that with a feeling, a pinpoint as to maybe why things didn't work out as well as he and you and everyone expected?
It's hard to put your finger on it. It's you see Jarrett. He's a pretty fundamentally sound kid. He could throw, he could run. Sometimes it's just kind of getting situated in an offense, getting comfortable in a scheme, seeing it against different coverages and different personnel groupings. And it's the SEC. It's a hard place to learn on the run. So. I see him coming back and being more comfortable. And again, you look at spring practice, right? It's another time where, you could really working on timing, working on running those same plays over and over and over again. And I see a difference in guys that played for the same OCs for 4 or 5 years as opposed to one-year guys, So, you see it nowadays in college football just because of the movement, whether it's, you do really well and a guy gets promoted and leaves, right? Or you don't do well and a guy gets fired. So there's constant movement. You're constantly having to learn new stuff, but he's had a lot, in his time there.
We're visiting with Tony Racioppi, Jarrett Guarantano's QB coach here on 99.1 The Sports Animal. So there is a speculation that, look, Guarantano, even though the season ended really well, that with Harrison Bailey coming in, now you got 5 scholarship quarterbacks coming in. People are talking about, hey, maybe he'll look to transfer and go closer to home. Did you guys ever have those kind of conversations?
Never. That was all speculation. Anytime I talked to him, it was about, being the best player for Tennessee that he possibly could be, number one. And number two, listen, more the merrier, right? Bring in 10 guys. I'm a competitor, and I'm going to go win the job. And that's kind of his mentality. And that's who he is. You could put best players in the country in one room with him, and he'll compete.
Well, and I'm sure you're right about that, but look, quarterbacks transfer so frequently.
Sure.
I think that's where those narratives build, is because there's competition with one guy. Oh, I'm going to go somewhere else. So there is a track record of guys wanting to bounce to other opportunities.
Sure. I listen. I deal with it. With what I do. Obviously,
right.
In the college world, and I'm lucky enough to train most of the Division I quarterbacks either in New Jersey or the tri-state area that come to me. And again, you see that, right? You see a guy have a good sophomore year, and then all of a sudden junior year maybe not play, or a new system comes in that really doesn't fit what they can play well in. A coaching staff maybe moves, they committed to a certain staff to play in a certain system, and a new guy comes in and runs something completely different. So then they're not happy, and it's tough. I mean, I get where that came from, but that's never come out of his mouth, and I don't think it ever would.
A lot of people have talked about, and even he has, I guess, all the different offensive coordinators that he has worked with. Now he has an opportunity to work with the same offensive coordinator for the first time 2 years in a row. I know it's not ideal circumstances because they're not in spring practice, they're not there, but how much can that benefit him, do you think, this year?
Oh, it's huge. It's learning a different language, right? I mean, some people watch games and they just see the same plays over and over again. But yeah, I mean, you can put a concept on the board. It might be called 15 different things. And, some coaches want you to read it high, low. Some guys want low, high. Some guys want outside in. Some guys want inside out. Some guys teach an alert where if I get a certain look, I'm throwing this ball to, my one-on-one guy. If not, then I'm reading a progression of 1 through 4. There's so many different ways of teaching and really what an OC wants from his quarterback to do. And really, at the end of the day, he's a smart kid. He played in a really good system in high school at Bergen Catholic that, they ran college pro style stuff. So he's not a kid that, was the high school kid who dropped back and threw bombs to one kid. And that's his highlight tape. He's able to process and throw different kind of balls. And, he's a passer. That was the biggest thing we kind of worked on when he was up here, was just kind of staying a little bit more balanced and understanding that you don't have to throw the ball as hard as possible on every single throw because, again, he's got elite arm strength. But, again, sometimes you watch games, sometimes quarterbacks throw the ball 25 times and 20 of them are not their hardest throws, right? They're up over people. They're taking a little bit off the ball. They're leading the guy a little bit more. It's understanding how to be a passer. And that just comes with time. It's understanding within certain plays, this is I'm gonna have to throw this ball pretty hard to get it in there. 1 and 2, if I go to my second guy, that's usually behind a linebacker, so I have to get the ball up and over. So it's kind of a secondary, second level, 2-ball kind of thrower. I'm going to take a little bit off the ball, a little bit pace off the ball, but because I have to get the ball over somebody. So it's running the same stuff over and over again within the way Coach Chaney wants it.
Another thing that unfortunately a lot of these kids aren't able to do is be a part of the Manning Passing Academy. You've been one of the on-the-field coaches at the Manning Passing Academy. I know that's got to stink for you to not be a part of that, and obviously for all the QBs like Jarrett that have been a part of those as well.
Yeah, right now it's still on. We just got an email about a week ago, so hopefully, obviously keeping fingers crossed right here. But it's in the works to still go. I mean, obviously they're going to look at it from week to week. So it's an amazing experience, and I know he's obviously been a part of it because of his relationship with Peyton.
Right.
He's going to be a guy that's going to be there 3 years, which is not many 3-year guys go to that camp. So. The neat thing about Jarrett is he's matured so much over the years, as a person and as a leader. It's nice to see.
Now, the Manning Passing Academy, I guess that's a lead-in to maybe Peyton Manning joining the Zoom quarterback room. Did you see that video? Peyton jumping in and joining those guys.
Yeah, that's him to a T. It's obviously you guys know him from being in the area and him playing at Tennessee, but he is who he is, and it's he's witty, he's sarcastic, he's very engaging. He's all those things. A lot of times, being around pro athletes as much as I am, sometimes the guy you see in commercials and on TV is not the person that they really are, and he is 100% that person at all times. I mean, just a class act. They all are.
Talking to Tony Racioppi from Test Football Academy up in New Jersey. He's Jared Guarantano's quarterback coach here on 99.1 The Sports Animal. I am Vince Ferrara. Let's talk about some of the quarterbacks at the top of the draft. Joe Burrow, many people think he is the lock for the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you see in him? Looking at him maybe differently than what a lot of people do, what are the things that you see in Joe Burrow for the next level?
I think that he's one of the best accuracy years maybe in college football history, right? Number one. Number two, I think his pocket movement, the ability to move in and out of the pocket. He's a better athlete than people think. He really moves well. And again, you're gonna have to do that at the next level, right? It's not a stationary kind of game anymore, right? Where you get back there, 5 and 7-step drops and you kind of just sit there and go through progressions. And I think, if you look at their games this year, I mean, he could process information quickly. People forget that's kind of the big link here with elite quarterbacks is, do you have to be accurate? Yeah. Do you have to be able to throw the ball, hard at times. Yeah, arm strength, those kind of things. But, you have to be able to process information quickly and find the open guy. It's not as easy as it looks, especially with people, trying to knock your head off. So, he's an elite movement guy, can process, and he doesn't miss throws. I mean, he throws gorgeous deep balls. His ability to get the ball over people, that second level throw, 1 and 2, his deep balls, very rarely did he miss a guy in an LSU game with a guy on their hip. He did a great job dropping the ball in, find the matchup on time, and getting the ball out.
Would you take him if you're the Cincinnati Bengals?
I would. I would. Being around him last summer, he was actually on my field with Jarrett at the Manning camp, so I got to really spend some time with him. Number one, number two, got to know Dad pretty well. Dad's obviously been a coach for a long time in college football, so comes from that family, comes from a coaching family. You can tell he's been around it, and he has a chip on his shoulder, which all the elite guys do. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a chip there in a good way.
What about Tua?
So I didn't really get a chance to meet him. He was supposed to come last year, didn't come through. I'm always weary of picking the guy in the best team. Sometimes, when you drop back and your guy has 7 yards of separation, that's not really a hard throw at times. Again, but also I don't want to knock him for it either. It's not his fault.
Right.
So I know the injury thing is something I'd be worried about if I was speaking as a GM right now. Because he's been hurt a lot. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's an elite athlete, what I go by is people that know him rave about him, right? So people that have, either trained him in the past or his coaches or, Nick Saban. I mean, when those guys rave about you, I mean, there's something there.
What about the next group? Some people, say Herbert. Other people think Love. What do you think about that next group of QBs?
I think that, it's really, if you look at those guys, right, a lot of guys, like a Jordan Love, I mean, had an amazing junior year. I mean, people knocked his senior with all his interceptions, but he lost, I think, 9 guys on his offense, plus his coaching staff.
Right.
So, he was not playing with, elite talent around him, number one. Number two, he's playing in a new system, his last year. So, I see his, his ceiling's really high. I think that, seeing him throw last summer at camp, I mean, he making all the throws. He worked this year with Steve Calhoun, who's one of my best friends at Armed and Dangerous out in California. That's who trained him for the draft. I mean, Steve's one of the best doing it. It's been for a long time. So, fundamentally, I know he'll be ready to rip it. I mean, he's a big, strong kid that can really throw the ball. I mean, Justin, again, was at camp last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, big kid, 6'6". I mean, 225 pounds, like shredded. I mean, he's like the poster boy, what you want in a quarterback, right? He's a big, strong kid. He can run. He can throw the ball really well. Can really drive the football. Can throw it really far. It doesn't mean you're a great quarterback, but he has all the traits you'd want in a quarterback. Again, maybe somebody that you take and maybe sit for a year or two and maybe learn the game a little bit and get under a really good quarterback coach so he could teach him things a little bit more. It's going to be an interesting thing. I trained Nate Stanley this year from Iowa. Yeah. Who was with me. He was one of my guys. And again, like you look at Nate, right? 3-year starter at Iowa. Pro style offense is, I mean, you put him on a board, he's as good as anybody in the country out there. He's 6'4.5", 235 pounds. I mean, he's a guy that could slide into being within that, 3 to 6 guy range, and it's kind of blown my mind that he hasn't been, he's kind of mentioned as, 8, 9, 10 right now in this group, but I really don't understand why. To me, if you're a pro style kind of coach, I mean, he fits what you're looking for.
Interesting. Is there any other quarterback that, whether you've worked with or not, that you think is a little bit of a sleeper for any NFL teams? Or being underrated, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I had 2 guys with me this year. I had Kenji Bahar, who played at Monmouth University, was a 4-year starter, FCS school. It's turned out a lot of pros, really well coached program. He set all their records. I mean, Monmouth usually has a guy or 2 every single year go to the NFL. A lot of tight ends and receivers lately. I mean, elite arm strength. Like Vince, he's, there ain't 10 guys in this draft that can throw balls hard as he can. Wow. He's a Baltimore kid. He's about 6'3", 200 pounds. He can run. He kind of fits that dual threat kind of guy. And I had Tommy Flacco this year too as well, who's Joe's younger brother, who's a complete opposite of Joe. He's 6 foot, but you put on his tape. I mean, people absolutely love him. I'm not going to tell you what teams flew in to work him out privately, but there was a lot of interest, and a lot of people were telling him, like, listen, you're really high on people's boards because you kind of fit that, like, Taysom Hill, we could take you late in the draft, be an undrafted free agent, and kind of you could fit like a role on our team, a short yardage kind of guy, a wildcat kind of guy that can throw the ball really well too. He's an elite athlete. He's drafted really high in baseball as an outfielder, and was a two-sport guy at Towson after going to Western Michigan his first year.
Tony Racioppi, Jerry Guarantano's quarterback coach, joining us here on 99.1 The Sports Animal. I'm Vince Ferrara. Appreciate you joining us. Now, let's get back to Jarrett. With all of this, the off season, the way you're not able to be there with his teammates. How does a quarterback try to make up chemistry or catch up with chemistry with receivers when you don't have the on the field practices until, who knows, maybe July or August or even after that?
Great question. And I think it's probably the hardest one to say. I mean, I have 5 FBS guys home with me right now in New Jersey that obviously I can't work with because of what's going on. But all, 4 of the 5 guys, one being a Rutgers kid, but obviously he's close and his teammates are pretty close for the most part. But everybody else is in the same boat as Jarrett. It's almost like I got to do enough stuff to keep myself ready. And then when we get back on campus, we need to spend as much time as we possibly can to play catch up here and get myself ready with my teammates to, be ready for a season. It's a great question. I mean, everybody's going through the same thing.
Right.
Right now, even up here, it's, like parks and high school fields they're all closed, so even if you wanted to go throw, it's almost like you feel like you're 10 years old again, like, you're in your driveway or your backyard playing with your dad, so it's, that's kind of what everybody's doing right now, to tell you the truth, but it's, again, it's all we can, right?
Yeah. Even, I know it's baseball, but Christian Yelich was on ESPN yesterday or the day before saying, yeah, sometimes I throw in the street.
Yeah.
Catch. Yeah.
Well, it's, I'll have, my high school kids, sending me videos of them doing drills. And it's kind of funny. Like, you're sitting there going like, guys, that's what I did. Like, there weren't quarterback coaches when I was, growing up. It was, me in the backyard with my dad trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Like, instead of somebody always, telling me and obviously all the information's out there with YouTube and all those different ways of finding information. It wasn't that way when we were growing up, right? So if the ball was going low, why was it going low? I had to figure it out on my own.
Right.
So it's different.
So with this year's Tennessee team losing a lot, does Guarantano at wide receiver with Jennings and Callaway going to the league, and they had such an experienced group, really exciting young group coming in.
Sure.
Losing his starting tight end and Dominic Wood Anderson. What's Jarrett talking about that excites him about this year's team?
Well, I think he knows that they're talented. 1 and 2, I think it's we talked about this. To be an elite player, to be an elite quarterback in college football, you have to be an elite leader. So it's how fast can you get those guys ready to play with you, and for the University of Tennessee to have a great year, they're going to have to make plays. So I always tell people it's pretty easy to find success with quarterbacks. It's usually the 3 Ps, right? It's usually personnel, number 1. Number 2 is play call, or number 3 is protection, right? So if you have all 3 things going for you, usually you're going to be pretty good as long as you do your job consistently, right? If 2 to 3 are there, you're going to see great performance and an inconsistent performance. And obviously, if 1 of the 3 is there or none of the 3, you're not going to look very good. Doesn't matter how good you are. So the personnel thing is the biggest thing he's got to kind of shore up right now, and I know he will once he's able to obviously get those guys kind of going on campus again.
So when things went better late in the year, were there things that you could kind of pinpoint that, all right, yes, maybe things didn't go great the first time or earlier in the year, but now he's doing this, and this, whether it's checks at the line, anticipation? What were some of those things that you saw that he did better late in the year during that win streak?
Well, I think, when you start understanding what a play caller wants and you get comfortable in the system, 2 things happen, right? Number 1, your feet are better because, if you want to see what a quarterback's thinking, look at his feet. So, if you see happy feet, you see kind of a confused quarterback. If you see feet that aren't aligned to a throw, especially if they're number 1 progression, he's not looking at the right place.
Right.
So I think, you saw feet being aligned more and being more comfortable. 1 and 2, I saw him just getting back there and being him, getting his feet set in a great base and ripping the football. You look at that with Missouri game when he threw for 400-something yards. I mean, that's who he is. It's getting back there, finding a matchup and throwing the ball on time and putting the ball in a place that only his guy could get it with elite arm strength, So I think, I think, is he going to throw 400 yards every game in the SEC? No, but I think that, he has the ability to have some huge games against some big time opponents this year.
All right. Something in our interview series that I'm going to do is 3 questions here on my dry erase board. I'm going to put up on the camera and see if I can get your answers too. So hopefully you can see it. The 3 questions are: what room are you in?
Okay.
Do you have a dog that can join us on video? And what was your last visit to Knoxville like? So why don't you hit those 3 for us?
All right. So number 1, I'm in my living room.
Okay.
My wife's got my daughter upstairs, so this interview could be a lot quieter for us to talk.
Well, you are Italian, so there's an extra level for
there's always noise. Correct. There's no doubt about that. So I'm in the living room right. Number 1 on my kitchen table. Number 2, I do not have a dog.
Okay.
I'm a teacher and a coach as well as my wife, so we don't have much free time outside of obviously having a baby now. So
yeah.
Don't have time for dog.
Okay.
Love dogs, don't have time for it. And the last thing is, Knoxville. I would say 1998 was probably the last time I was in Knoxville. So
played college ball in the state.
Correct. Yep. Tennessee Tech. I was at Tennessee Tech. My I redshirted my freshman year and then played as a redshirt freshman quarterback there. I got moved to defense, so I left Tennessee Tech and came home and played at Rowan, which is a Division III school in New Jersey, which was one of the best in the country at the time. So, Tennessee was a great time. I loved the state, loved the people. I plan on getting there this year. Hopefully, we play a lot of Saturdays. I coach at the Hun School. It's a prep school in Princeton. We're one of the top schools in the country. We have Tennessee just offered our left tackle, I believe.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll start sending some more kids down to UT. Antone Davis is a good friend of mine. Tennessee Hall of Famer. I trained his son Braden, who's one of the top players in the country in the sophomore class right now as a quarterback. So I plan on getting back there hopefully to see a big time game and Jarrett obviously doing his thing.
Last thing. I think Joe Osavet, who's now the tight ends coach, right? He's a JUCO head coach up there, and now he's Tennessee's tight ends coach, getting elevated with the changes to the staff. What's Tennessee getting in Joe in an on-the-field coach?
Great coach, detail-oriented, passionate about the game, leader, all the things you want in your position coaches, right? The ability to recruit, really talented players, and when they get them there, develop them, So, you don't see – what I see nowadays is, some guys are really good, teachers of the game, but they're not great recruiters. They don't really want to spend time on the phone with kids.
Right.
Where the opposite is you get a guy who's a great recruiter, a smooth talker, but they can't coach them when they get there. So, the home run obviously at the coaching level and at the college level is a guy that can get the great players, 1, and 2, coach them when they get there, right? Develop them from freshman year to senior year.
Tony, we'll let you go. Appreciate you playing along for my 3 for V questions that I put up on the dry erase board.
Appreciate you having me, Vince. All right.
All
Go Vols, baby. Go Vols, all right?
All right. That is Tony Racioppi, Jarrett Guarantano's quarterback coach here on 99.1, The Sports Animal.